Marriage/engagement photographers/videographers of Reddit, have you developed a sixth sense for which marriages will flourish and which will not? What are the green and red flags? Ex-wedding photographer. Typically I saw red flags when the bride or groom is super quiet. I mean silent and just watching. One instance was a groom who barely said 10 words to anyone during the ceremony or reception afterwards. The bride and her mother were extremely loud and excited the entire time. The bride needed everything to be perfect. I dropped off the photo bundle with them 2 weeks later, and he was still quiet. She however complained about all of the pictures because the groom wasn't smiling enough. She wanted a discount because I couldn't make him look happy enough. They got divorced about a year later. I know because I did his engagement photos with his new fiancée about 4 years after his first wedding. His engagement photos showed him much happier. Edit. I stopped doing weddings, but I do some portraits and mostly commercial and product work. He called me for a wedding quote, but I had stopped doing them at that point. I do still do portraits, so I offered to do engagement photos for him that he was happy with. Photographer here. I've done a few engagement photos and weddings. Red flags, when one person is critical of the other during the shoot, but then posts the photos with the caption, "About to marry my best friend and my soulmate." Also, when they badly Photoshop themselves and their partners to appear better looking than they actually are. Green flags. A couple who can laugh together when doing awkward poses, when they are wiping sweat from their foreheads, and when something goes wrong in general. Edit. Goodness, this blew up. To answer a few questions, I only edit the lighting and background of photos. I have never and will never edit someone's body. Once I have been paid for my edited photos, I do believe the photos belong to the couple and they are free to tweak them any way they like. Although, I do think there is no need to edit your face/body. People who are truly happy for you don't care how perfect you look in your photos. Besides, I think that genuine love and happiness make the most beautiful photos, not a slim waist and perfect skin. To address the wiping of the sweat, I did a photoshoot for a couple in the middle of an intense Texas summer. It was incredibly hot and humid that day, and the man was sweating rivers. Him and his fiancée were such good sports about it though. I've done photoshoots for brides to be who get extremely offended and angry when their partner doesn't look perfect. I was very happy that this particular bride to be just had a good time taking silly photos with her fiancé. Honestly, their photos turned out great. Photographer here. To me the biggest sign is the cake cutting. Some people like to smear the cake everywhere as a joke. Some people don't. Usually the couple is in sync about this. They know what the other would like, and they don't smash cake on the other's face if they wouldn't want that. Sometimes one of them, usually the groom, will force cake all over the other's face and embarrass and upset them. I've seen this happen a handful of times and all of those relationships that I have kept up with have ended in a divorce. Wedding planner here. Red flags. Nerves are normal, but when one of the pair start doubting whether they should go through with it way before the day, you know something isn't quite right. Green flags. They make decisions together and have each other's backs, especially when family can be pressuring. We had a stressful, let's put it that way, wedding due to my parents and sister. The biggest thing I took away from that was feeling like it was me and my husband as a secret team managing all the outrageous familial and manipulative bullshit around us. I felt like we were partners in a spy novel or something. He was the only person I could fully rely on, and we'd sneak off to the pub to decompress and plan our strategies almost every afternoon. It only strengthened my desire to marry him. I felt like we were 100% secret, only sane people here team us. Photographer here. You can tell somewhat based on how the couple treats each other on the wedding day. If they are respectful toward one another and toward me during a day full of stress, then I think that's a good indicator of being able to deal with other problems that may arise during a marriage. Best advice I got about marriage was from my psychology professor. He told us never to marry someone until you've seen how they react when something goes wrong. I think for some couples that may turn out to be the day of the wedding. Edit. Best advice from this comment thread: go on a trip together. Go camping or go somewhere you've never been. Put up wallpaper together. Maybe try playing Monopoly if you're feeling extra saucy. But guys, please don't force your so into something they don't want to do, and don't intentionally try to make things as hard as possible to test them. Let things progress normally and just live life together. Life is full of obstacles. Don't create more of them, because you're also just going to make it harder on yourself, and you may drive people away doing that. Best of luck to all of you and happy travels. Wedding videographer here. I try to get to know both people beforehand, so I can work on their hobbies/unique traits into my product. A big red flag is when one person is clearly trying to change the other. I had one dude who loved poker, craft beer, cigars, hanging with his rowdy friends, video games, etc. I planned a cool shoot where I had all his friends in an old west saloon, and he sees his bride-to-be, etc. but she steps in and declares he won't be doing any of those things anymore. Poor bastard just sat there in silence as I awkwardly had to plan them shopping for a Yorkie puppy instead. Halfway through post-production after the wedding, he called and said he was getting an annulment. I wanted to say, could have told Yasso, but I try to stay neutral. Green flags are just the opposite, embracing the other person's habits/hobbies/interests, basically not being a controlling freak show. Yikes. Aside from the usual it makes you a terrible person reasons, why would you want to marry someone you have to change? Like that is so much mental work, the nagging, the coaching, the grooming, etc. Same goes for the people who spend so much mental energy pretending to be someone else. Just find someone you're actually compatible with. Work smarter, not harder. Edit. This was a rhetorical question, but I'm enjoying the replies anyway. Cake artist here. I had a couple come in for a tasting. Appointment was for 7 PM, but he was late. First half hour was just her. She told me they met at a stable where they both kept their horses. Those horses were going to be featured at the wedding as the bride and groom would ride them to the site, a beautiful farm venue. She described in detail her self-designed medieval gown, flower wreath in her hair, embroidered shoes like some from a museum. Sounded lovely. She wanted a cake like a castle, which was a specialty of mine. The whole wedding would be over the top, but not in a cringy way. Then he arrives, barely says hi to her, sits down and starts telling me about his wedding. He'll ride and dressed as a riverboat gambler with a frock coat, brocade vest, string tie, big hat, gold pocket watch, and sterling silver spurs. He's fine with the castle cake, but wants to incorporate the watch and a pair of mother-of-pearl handled pistols. Picture given. I had already decided that I was not going to work with them. No way could I come up with a cake that would work for them. But they were there, so I brought out the samples. For the next hour they carried on two entirely separate monologues. They didn't address each other, or me, and they didn't listen to each other, or me. I made no attempt to book them that night, and when they called later in the week I told them their date had been taken. They were living in two incompatible and entirely self-contained fantasies. I doubt they even made it to the wedding day. Ex-wedding photographer here. There were only a couple situations where I had doubts about the couple's future, and one where I was certain. I met the couple in a cafe to discuss their ideas and my services. The girl was very happy, she was very emotional and interested. The guy, however, was rolling his eyes and grunting at everything, and I stopped trying to get him involved in the conversation after he ignored me twice. It made the girl very uncomfortable, and she was apologetic of his behavior. I don't know what happened to them, as they apparently chose to reschedule their wedding and didn't hire me in the end. I declined shooting a wedding when the person who was going to hire me was the groom's mom. When I asked her to arrange a meeting with the couple, she said that they didn't want a wedding, meaning they wanted to elope, and it was her initiative to celebrate it. I tried to play I want to hear bride's ideas card, but she told me the bride has no ideas. She obeys the groom, and the groom obeys mom. So I'll only talk to the mom. So I declined. I hope the girl is fine. No one deserves a controlling mill. Finally, I was a guest and a photographer at my friend's wedding. The bridesmaid was wearing a short white dress, and she was chirping about her side hustle modeling for photos and catalogs. How her boyfriend saw her in so many wedding dresses he won't be surprised when she wears one to the wedding, and how she caught 8 bouquets already. This will be her 9th. She talked a lot about wedding planning and stuff, but apparently there hadn't even been a formal proposal, and her boyfriend, who was a guest as well, looked very annoyed and clearly wished he were somewhere else. Anyway, the bridesmaid started bugging me for photos of her and her boyfriend a week after the wedding. I told her several times that when I start editing the photos, I will do hers first, and by the time I sent her the photos, they were already broken up. She started dating someone else a month later and got married the next year. Wedding videographer here. I don't usually follow the marriage all that closely after the video is delivered, but usually you have a feeling as a neutral third party about whether it's going to last or not. While I agree with most of the stuff mentioned here, I found that the microcosm of how the couple feels about each other comes usually out during the cake cutting. If they're drinking, then they've usually had a few by that point, and it's a moment when everyone is watching you do something potentially awkward with your new significant other. When I see a new bride or groom aggressively smush cake into the other's face, I usually feel like that's a strong sign of an unbalanced relationship. Sometimes they're both having fun with it, and you can tell it's cool, but most of the time you can tell that the person with cake on their face is either shocked or angry about it. Again, I don't have hard data to track results, but that's the thing that usually informs my opinion about how it's going to work out.